Hi, welcome to The Witch in the Woods. I decided to make this video in response to a question that was asked to me from a viewer, and this was somebody from India who said that they had no knowledge about witchcraft and wondered how to be a witch. And I thought that's a very interesting question to try and explain that to somebody who doesn't really have much background information, who can just kind of starting from scratch. So my explanation of how to be a witch is to be in tune with nature, which is why I've come out to this very secluded spot. And I think the first thing about witchcraft is that it's very much a earth-based religion. So it centres primarily around the goddess. And this maybe relates to older matrilineal cultures. So from times before we sort of had Christianity here, we very much worshipped the mother as the womb of creation, and families were probably assigned to a mother figure rather than a father figure. So witchcraft, going back to these earlier religions, very definitely focuses on the goddess as the prime energy. And the goddess, of course, is embodied in the earth, in the vibrancy and life that springs forth from her belly. Of course, there's also a consort who we can see in terms of a lunar feminine goddess and a solar male deity. We see him as the horned god, the consort of the goddess. And so basically what we're worshipping, what we're addressing in any practice are these two deities. It's also part of a witch's craft to really sort of get out and to know the land. And this is a very animistic belief that the land contains many spirits, many powerful beings, many deities. For example, I have this beautiful oak tree behind me, and in Wicca the oak signifies a particular spiritual quality, definitely related to the oak god, the consort, the stag god of the goddess. It's almost like the oak is the king of trees. So part of the path of a witch is to get to know your own land, get to find some powerful spots, some powerful trees, some powerful areas. And as a witch, we know the land, we try and find out about certain plants, and we can use them in magic for their magical associations. So it all depends very much on your own land, your own environment, and you can take that and adapt it towards a Wiccan path. So to worship an oak god may not be as relevant as a banyan tree. So long as you find some connection to that tree, to that being, then that's much more powerful than trying to implement something that doesn't really speak to you. So central to the belief in Wicca is that the world is made up of 5 elements, and these are earth, air, fire and water. And there's a 5th element which we call ether or spirit. So we use these symbolic attributes of these 4 elements of creation combined to make a 5th element of creation, which is magic or spirit, or something beyond the physical. And we can do this in a circle, so we lay out a circle related to the 4 elements. Now here in Britain we would place Earth in the north, and this is related to the immovable North Star, so it's solid, it's very slow moving. In the east we place air, because this is where our weather comes from quite often. So we place clouds and air in the east. We place fire in the south because this is where the sun is. This is where the heat of the midday is. And we place water in the west because this is where our sea is. This is where the unknowable beyond in the element of water resides. Some different cultures place the elements in different places. I think they place them differently in America. Usually water is in the west and fire is in the south. But obviously if you were in Australia, fire would be in the north and the earth element might be in the south. So you've got to work with what you understand as the element of air. Where is air in your world? Where is earth in your world? Where is fire? And where is water? And it may be that if you live on an east coast, water is in the east. So it's a representation of the elements in the land, and this way we're connecting to the land. So what a witch does is mark out a magic circle, and a magic circle has some kind of symbol that relates to each of the 4 elements in each of the 4 quarters. And we work in that circle to raise energy, so it's a barrier that contains and protects the energies of magic that you'll be working. When we work with these elements, we can quite often draw the symbol of a pentagram in each quarter, and we align each pentagram with a line of light, so that as we go around drawing a pentagram, we don't let our hand drop. We take that line of light from one pentagram to the next, to the next, to the next, till we come back to the point we started. Then symbolically we have drawn a protective sphere of light around us. We then can address a goddess or a god if we have a specific name. We can light an altar candle, we can light a goddess and a god candle if we like. The whole idea is to raise the energies in that circle. Then we can work with particular spells in relation to whichever element they may relate to. So if you want some success with career, you may focus a career spell in the south towards the element of fire. You might want to light a candle there, make a prayer there, burn a little piece of paper with your wish upon it in the south. The same if you want to do something emotional, you might want to focus that on the west. So you can work that way as well, or sometimes you can just work at an altar in the centre. And when you're at the centre, you're combining all the elements. So this is the way we use a magic circle, and it's important to say that every time we raise a magic circle, it's kind of very important after we've done our work to get rid of that circle, to banish it, send it away, to rub it out, whatever we need to do to close the circle. And many people walk around the circle counterclockwise, rubbing out the elements, rubbing out the sphere of light, and then declare that the circle is open but ever unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And this is a very nice way of closing a circle. So that's the basic of taking witchcraft into the element of magic. But there's more to be said about witchcraft, and a lot of that is also to do with seasonal festivities. So witches find it very important to mark the points of the year. We are going through winter, spring, summer, autumn, and back to winter again. So that is the cycle of climate in our area, but of course if you're in another country, then you may be celebrating things like the monsoon season or the hot season. Your own sacred festivals are also important. It's the manner in which you relate to the land, and many of these festivals celebrate things that are different changes in climate and in season. So some kind of celebration of the season is good, at least to note it in your mind that you are travelling past the point of the summer solstice or past this point of the winter solstice. And also it's very important to be aware of the moon phases. The moon is the embodiment of the goddess, and much magic takes place at night under the lunar rays. She is secrecy and magic and has been revered in many cultures. She is known as the goddess of the witches Diana, or as Selene, or as Artemis, and she goes by many names. She is the divine benefactor who grants wishes, who helps with healing, who helps with magic, and like the moon, her energy is insubstantial, it's etheric, it's very serene and very mystical. And so working with the full moon helps to tune in your own being to the magic of moonlight and the magic and mystery of this feminine deity. So it's very good to mark the full moons. It's also good to know what phase of the moon you're in when you're creating any kind of spell. So for a banishing spell you would use a waning moon, and for a invoking spell, a spell to bring something to you, you would use the waxing moon. So as something grows you can create a beneficial effect, and as something dies back you can create a banishing effect. Now, I was told not to do any work on the new moon because that is a time of stillness, of peace, of a point of no point of quiet, of gaining energy before the next moon phase. So this is what I was told. Some people like to use the new moon. I personally wait until I can see a crescent in the sky. I also try and bathe in moonlight or create moon water. And this is very healing and it awakens the psychic senses. So part of being a witchcraft are these psychic senses and the idea that you can bend and shape reality using certain symbolic keys. So this is where knowing the land, walking the land, finding power places comes in. Because witchcraft is basically animistic. It believes that everything has a spirit. Now, when Gerard Gardner created Wicca, he wanted a benign and loving earth-based spirituality to bring back something to our culture that had perhaps been dominated by a very strict patriarchal kind of zeitgeist. So Gardner wanted a fluffy earth-based seasonal celebrating religion. But before that, traditional witchcraft was something slightly different. And Cecil Williamson had a bit of a dispute with Gardner about whether you should worship spirits. And Cecil Williamson, who created the Witchcraft Museum in Boscastle, he insisted that everything that was worked with a familiar spirit, a spirit guide. And this is what a witch needed to seek out. Some connection with spirits, with other beings, and with a personal familiar spirit. And apparently one day Cecil Williamson invoked one of these spirits, and Gardner ran out of the room in total fear and panic. So that's the two sides of witchcraft, one of which is a traditional witchcraft and one of which is Wicca. I'm of the belief that we work with beings and spirits and familiars and energies, and it's this sense of animism of we can work with the spirit of this oak tree because he has a character, he has a temperament, he is very much a conscious being, and if we work with this being then maybe we could leave it offerings, something like some food at the tree, the foot of the tree, and we can ask for it to help us. So really this is what witchcraft is doing, it's seeking out other spirits between dimensions and asking them for their help in changing reality here and now. And many of these spirits are considered to be the ancestors, so they are the dead, they are the wise ones, they are the hallowed spirits of ages gone by. And also they are the nature spirits and the elves and the fae. Some people are wary about working with the fae. They're a little bit wild, don't take without asking, don't ask without giving a gift. But it's all the same thing, it's the world of spirits. Unlike this plane, you annoying bastard. I didn't catch all that, but he was doing loop-the-loops. Just had to be centre of attention, that one. When I was saying we walk the land, when we talk about plants, we get to know the plants, we get to know certain associations with the plants. Some people use plants in magic for their correspondences. I like to use candles on fire, and we can draw symbols on candles. We can also work with sigils. And so really what we're doing is plugging into a symbolic magic. Is there another word? A symbolic creation, where we influence outside reality through association, through metaphor, and through the right brain. The plane is back again. So, I got terrible hair. There we go. So this raises the question of whether a witch needs some tools of witchcraft. And I would say yes, it's quite important to have tools of witchcraft. They hold energy, they're little power batteries. So when you have tools and you work with tools, you're increasing the power in a circle. And you use these tools only for magical and special purposes. So the tools of a witch, of course, are the 4 elements. So we have a pentagram for earth. We can use a stick of incense for air, or we can use an athame. We could use a simple candle for fire, but we can also put a wand in the south, and we can use a bowl of water, or we can have a chalice or a cauldron. And when we put these tools out, we are consecrating a space and bringing the power of those symbols into it. So something like a wand, I would say, is quite important to get as a beginner. And of course use the wand to draw the circle if you want to use that instead of your finger. So it is a process of learning how to use the tools. So I would say that having these tools are quite important. Also, which can use a lot of tools like poppets or spirit houses, altars, things like these. These all gain power and work on a symbolic level to produce a result in the physical world, such as the use of a poppet for healing to represent somebody. It could also be used for cursing. I would say don't go into witchcraft if you want to use it for cursing. There are better things to do with your energy, personally. But they can be used for hexing, binding, which is a useful practice. So yeah, tools are quite important to a witch, as are items of clothing. Some people need robes to set aside their human self from their magical self. Yet again, these clothes, they aren't used for everyday use, they are separate magical items. It's quite often said that the clothes should be clean, or you should take a ritual bath first, or in some way cleanse and renew yourself before you enter a circle. So that's the basics of witchcraft. It's a slow process of learning how to work spells, magic, and celebrate the seasons of the year. So I couldn't cover all that in one go, but as a basic introduction to how to think about becoming a witch or being a witch, then there are a few points to take on board and work with them. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions or anything to add, please use the comments box below. If you did like that, please like and subscribe, and I hope to speak to you all again next time. Cheers, bye. Oh, sorry about the plane.